Imagine crying about working 1 extra hour per day. Also, homeboys crying about working 45 hours a week. I worked 50 hours a week at a donut shop in high school. No wonder Jimmy fired him. Dude is not fit for the working world. The irony of calling out MrBeast for having a misogynistic culture and then calling MrBeast a pussy. Now, YouTube video surfaced again where an ex-employee exposed MrBeast for having to work a whopping 1 more hour overtime.
I'm not working more than 45 hours anymore per week. And he paused and he was like taken aback. And he was like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Which is... How do you say that? Like, the average work week for an American is 40 hours a week.
Then he proceeded to tweet that this video sheds light on Jimmy firing me for refusing to work more than 45 hours a week for him. Incredibly illegal of him and his team to do, by the way. For all the kids out there, just so you know, this guy best put it, 45 hours a week is not a lot. Now, aside from the fact that when I used to work accounting and there are audits, our entire team had to work until like 11 for the entire month, which was like 65 hours a week. If working your employees 45 hours a week was illegal, 75% of teams' bosses around the world would be locked away by now. Like, what does that even mean? But we'll use actual evidence, unlike the other guy, to explain it to him that it's not illegal. He worked at MrBeast, which is in North Carolina, and literal North Carolina Department of Labor states there are no wage and hour laws that limit the amount of hours that a person 18 years of age or older can work either by the day, week, or number of days in a row. An employer is free to adjust the hours of his employees regardless of what the employees are scheduled to work. Also, this may be done regardless if the employee agreed to this or not. The decision to work employees in 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, 16-hour shifts, etc. is entirely up to the employer. Now that we got the whole 45 hours a week is illegal thing out of the way, before you grab your pitchforks and uprise saying that doesn't give the employer the right to overwork his employees just because it's not illegal, let me remind you again that 45 hours a week is seriously not a lot. It's like 1 more hour per day. If anybody complains about this in the office, that guy is that guy in the office, like this guy or this guy. Of course, it was so satisfying to see this guy actually speak the truth, and a bunch of angry trolls couldn't argue back, and all they could do was tremble in anger and be like, what do Jimmy's farts smell like? I can't even imagine being as much of a weirdo as you. But yeah, not a serious point, but one that's actually kind of hilarious. You see, he calls out MrBeast for being such a boys club, but then he proceeds to call him a see?
Not only does he talk like a gamer, he's also a fucking pussy.
Damn, I mean, I don't know what you have against gamers. Your latest tweets include Banjo and Kazooie stream, Jax Dicey, and Pokemon. You literally say you grew up on video games. So when you call out MrBeast for talking like a gamer, are you calling yourself out as well? Yeah, I'm confused. Yeah, the guy calling MrBeast out to be politically correct is the same guy that tweeted, the thing about not 11 jokes is that it shouldn't be a year-round thing. We should save them up and reveal them on the big day like Christmas. And the part that just nailed the coffin from me that this guy was just a plain bad employee was that he complained about Jimmy, his boss, always talking about work at a workplace. Like he didn't hang out with him to watch a movie or something. Like, bro, what does that even mean? You didn't go there to hang out and watch a movie. You went there to work. What is your boss wanting you to work? Make him a sociopath. He's always going to be talking about work. He's always going to be wanting you to do something productive. Like, yeah, a boss wants you to be productive at a workplace. Like, what are you on about, bro? And I love the accidentally coincidental plug that actually snipes the hell out of Dogpack, who's going through a bit of a debacle due to his recent comments after accusing the wrong guy of domestic violence. James is still a textbook abuser, in my opinion. In my opinion, you 5 children in a head-on collision. Just my opinion, though. In my opinion, you allegedly burned down an and I got several sources telling me you did it. And then he got mad at his boss getting angry at him because he couldn't do his job.
Partnership video for a Far Cry 6 sponsor. With the gaming channel, everything was a challenge video. You know, everything had to be a challenge because that's what kids like whenever they watch a YouTube video. It's engaging for them and all that. But how do you make a challenge video out of fucking Far Cry 6?
I don't know, maybe like this, or this, or this. Yeah, so when his pitch tanked and his boss got mad at him, he decided to fire back, saying he didn't want to work more than 45 hours anymore. And this is the same guy that asked to work 100% remotely, and MrBeast even let him do that.
Whenever I started working with MrBeast, I didn't even know who the fuck he was. I was just doing it for, like, credibility and a paycheck, really. So I decided I was going to move back to Texas, and I even called Jimmy, and I said, hey, is it okay if I do all of my work remotely? So I want to be remote. And I called Jimmy and I said, can I do that? And he said, yes, sure.
Ever have people that ask you for something small, and when you help them, they ask for something more? So you help them again, and they ask for something ridiculous, which you say no to, and they get pissed off, and they go around telling everybody that you're a bad person? Like, I wouldn't have the audacity to go up to my boss and say, hey boss, can I work remotely 100% without risk of getting scolded the hell out of? And this guy did that, and MrBeast even said, okay, do that. So we got that, but he takes it a step further, and he asks to not work over 45 hours a week, which is like such a ridiculous thing to ask your boss, by the way. And then you complain because you got fired for it, and now you're going around telling everybody that this is a bad person. Now, I'm not discrediting everything that this guy says in this video. For example, he mentions that in the summer of 2020, some of the higher-ups were passing around Adderall to their employees that were working overtime.
Devin Leach, and that's him admitting right there that like he is part of the crew that's passing around Adderall in the company. And by the way, in that message, John Smith is Jimmy, and it's funny that my proof of that being Jimmy is this message that I found where he sent an article of his wiki feed.
I mean, if that's true, that's pretty Like, the higher-ups can't just pass around drugs that you need prescription for just so the employees can concentrate. That's really dangerous because people can get addicted from that. But the opposition's argument right now is pretty compelling as well, actually. Like, people talked about this and they bring up pretty valid points. Is there proof or even anything that remotely indicates that this is true, or am I just supposed to trust this random fella? Right? You literally can't make this shit up. John Smith is definitely Jimmy Donaldson, and the way I can prove this is that John Smith went the wiki feed URL to the group chat once. How on earth did we so thoroughly lower the bar for evidence that this is all we need? Or as YouTuber Lorix, who is actually one of the few YouTubers who are logical about this whole Beast situation, also known as the guy that destroyed Jake Weddle.
But you still need 50. I don't want Jimmy's money, but I need to eat food.
I don't think MrBeast is responsible for your poor financial status. Your poor financial status. Your poor financial status.
Said.
Now, I wish there was like more hard-hitting evidence to prove this aside from this kind of like vague DM. I feel like if there was like this Adderall team, it would get mentioned more and employees would be mentioning giving out specific samples or some communication. Here's the thing, I just have to see more evidence.
Which I agree with. This is definitely a step above Dogpack's like absolutely no evidence, like my evidence, this anonymous DM, or I heard it from 2 corroborating sources that I trust, or these religious people say MrBeast is the Antichrist. So no matter how much the trolls would like to think that I'm a beast rider, if you give me evidence, I'll look at the evidence and go, wow, if this is legit, that's pretty terrible. I think people misunderstand me, like my intention was to be neutral about this. It's just that as I looked into it, Dogpack started yapping about how subscribe for a cookie banner was a psychologically manipulative tactic, and Jake Weddle talked about sleeping with the lights on being a war crime. This guy talked about how it's illegal to work for more than 45 hours, and the logical side of my brain just started going haywire. I'm sorry, they said it. I was just talking common sense and people are like, finally someone is talking sense. Like, what does the world come to if talking common sense has become such a rarity that people have to be glad to find it? Like, what does the world come to if telling the world, hey, maybe the guy doing shrooms that got fired wearing a police uniform telling people someone is the Antichrist is probably shady is enough to kickstart a YouTube career? Whatever, but the important thing is this: MrBeast might actually come out of this unscathed. Like, Dogpack had the world by the balls when he came out with some of the serious stuff in his part 1 video, like he was doing illegal lotteries or faking signatures. Now, I don't agree. I made 2 whole videos talking about how I don't agree. But if someone comes up to me and says, hey, it's still unethical to run lotteries, the loot box and gacha fermented side of my brain can go to sleep, and I can be like, yeah, I can see your point. And if someone comes up to me and says, hey, it still would have been better for MrBeast to sign the signatures himself, the part of my brain that thinks, I mean, that isn't what they offer, but if you're a fan of MrBeast, I can see you being upset. And if someone came up to me and said Jake Weddle was tortured, I would still say Jake Weddle is a piece of shit and an unfunny comedian that complains about lukewarm hot tub, smell of the ice cream machine, taxes.
You know how much money I spent in taxes? Is this $50,000? Well, first of all, you're gonna tax it, so let's say it's more like $30,000.
And going broke after being literally handed to him, $150K complaining about a day job.
I still have a day job. I still, am barely getting by.
Then complains about having spent away all his money.
And now, I spent all that money on doing stand-up. I bought plane tickets to go do comedy festivals.
Barely getting by. Did use some of that blood money to invest in my production, so I now have the ability to stream. Barely getting by.
Not only does Jake have to pay rent in NYC, but think of the therapy bills and improv classes.
Barely getting by.
But MrBeast might actually come out of this without much damage just by not doing anything. This guy is destroying the credibility that he built up for himself.
Dogpack's first video felt calculated. It felt like he knew what he was doing and he's slowly losing the plot.
This guy's completely lost it. The top Reddit post in the YouTube drama subreddit is literally talking about how massively Dogpack fucked up, and people on Twitter are starting to hate him. To all the Dogpack supporters out there, he's your leader. Cope harder, motherfuckers.